and I put it out there, and it didn't go well. But I redefined it, and I ended up making it better, just like my hockey school example.
Welcome, everyone, to the Sports to Business podcast. I'm so excited to welcome someone today that literally grew up minutes away, or I grew up minutes away from where he grew up. He's a little older, not a lot older, and he's been around the block. And B-Town represent, first of all, we have Mike Weaver, former NHL player turned tech entrepreneur. So happy to have you on the podcast, Mike.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, Mike, you grew up in Brampton. You played for Brampton Blues, and then you went on a full scholarship to Michigan State University, where you had 4 years. You won a few awards there. I think you won the Best Defensive Defenseman award twice in a row. And then you were undrafted, but went to the NHL, found some playing time between AHL and NHL at Atlanta, and then you really turned it up back in 2005, and you had a long career, retiring in 2015. I just wanted to say, it's awesome to see someone from the same city go on such a great career. So kudos to you, and can't wait to jump into all these things in your previous life to your technology career now.
Pretty remarkable. A lot of the teams that I played for don't exist anymore. It's kind of crazy. It's dating me. So I went from Chinguacousy, which doesn't exist, to Richmond Hill Vaughan Kings, that doesn't exist. Brampton Maroons doesn't exist. Then I went to Thornhill Islanders, that doesn't exist. And then from there, I ended up going to Atlanta Thrashers. That doesn't exist. The farm team, Orlando Solar Bears, doesn't exist. They folded the IHL, the International Hockey League. That doesn't exist. So it's kind of funny that if all these teams knew that I would come and their team wouldn't exist, they probably wouldn't have got me. So no, but it's been pretty amazing. And I think a big part of that, I think my parents really stressed education. And for me, being a 5'9" defensive defenseman that ate pucks for a living, I think that education was a big part of it. And why not get a full ride at Michigan State? I had the best 4 years of my life there. I did a lot of things to Michigan State. It really set me on a career path in the NHL, but also in the working world. Because Absolutely. at some point, and a lot of athletes don't understand this, is that at some point, whether you're playing one NHL game or 600 games like myself, education is so key to go and fall back on. And I was trying to stay relevant, because who knows how long it's going to last. And a lot of people think, oh, you make it to the NHL, you retire, and you have this, you sit on a beach with your drink with an umbrella in there. But at the end of the day, you have to fall back on the education. And a lot of people don't really do that. They prepare their bodies for the season, right, in the summertime, and they don't really prepare their mind for after. And they think that, I think one of the biggest things with athletes is that you almost, if you start thinking about after hockey or after sports, then you're jinxing yourself. But really, at the end of the day, it's just going in the summertime. You go and work out. Well, you find a business or something that you like, that just stop by, say hi, right? Go and start a conversation, because trust me, when you are, a lot of athletes end because, and they're almost forced to end, right? So it's an abrupt ending. They get injured, abrupt ending, or you transition like myself, and I didn't want to work for anybody. I wanted to create my own company. So yeah, it's been a pretty good, amazing road.
I mean, I didn't play as long as you did. So I played university, and it wasn't until my third year that I started realizing that education. So of course I had great marks, but I didn't truly focus on education until my fourth year, when I realized, hey, even if you go to the CFL, at tops at a defensive lineman is 2 years until somebody pulls out your knee or you run your body to the ground. And that's when I started to focus. And what happened was I actually started playing better, Mike. My performance got better on the field, and I had better marks because I wasn't just so fixated and so under pressure on just football. So it almost takes a bit of a pressure away for all the student athletes listening if you also focus on something in addition to sports, right? Which I think it's just human nature.
No, for sure. Yeah. Everybody puts so much pressure on making it. And to be honest, it is such a, like, it is so much pressure. Like near the end of my career, like I was swelling up in the middle of the night. I had no idea what's going on.
Wow.
And and I found out later that it was all the pressure. Like literally my face would be like this. And then I'd go to sleep the next day. This would be fine. This would be swollen up. And I didn't know what was going on.
Oh man.
It was very like my other buddy got colitis. It's basically your stomach, like all the pressure, all the years that put on you. It's tough. And to be honest, it's very tough on your family. Your significant other has to go and move away with you. And a lot of times that you're Canadian living in the States and them not being able to work unless you get a green card, which is very tough nowadays. So there's a lot of things that people don't realize moving from city to city. And at the end of the day too, you are just, I had 15 years in the NHL. Okay. So I graduated 2000.
Yeah.
15 years. So 2015 is when I retired. All those people that got their education at Michigan State, they ended up getting a job and they moved up the ranks, becoming manager, getting higher and higher and higher. And then all of a sudden, 15 years later, if I wasn't concentrating on with my hockey school and another coaching platform I developed, if I didn't do that, I would have been working for those guys that graduated in 2000. And that's one of the things you don't realize, that you are so fixated on sports the whole entire way that, like, it's not like you're a plumber that could go and you get fired, you go to another plumbing job. I can't go to another hockey job because I'm too old. And it's funny. I have 20 years to get to, I'm retired, but I'm kind of essentially retired in the hockey world as far as a player, but I can't just go to another hockey position. Yeah. Right. And to be honest, if you're not a hockey player or the person playing, there's no money in it. The other people, the assistant coaches really don't make a whole lot of money. The head coach, yes, probably make a lot of money, but there's tons of coaches out there. What makes you better than the other person? So at the end of the day, you just got to make sure that you are staying relevant. And when I was playing, I wanted to be on the executive board. So with every NHL team, there are 2 members that are part of the executive board for the NHL Players Association. So I was able to be in the room with these billionaire owners and see how everything went. I was part of the negotiations, and I was trying to stay relevant the whole time. And I think what drove me was, I think, feeling uncomfortable. And a lot of people get comfortable and they lose kind of that drive. And a lot of the things, it's funny that the little things in the sports world, a lot of people don't look around and take in what's going on. There's a lot of lessons. So like with hockey, there's 5 guys on the ice. So these 5 guys are from different backgrounds, probably different, maybe different languages, right? Different upbringing, but they have to work together and take the orders from their coach, which your boss, and you have to go and put them together on the ice to go and take this little rubber thing we call a puck and use these little sticks and slap it around. And we're trying to go and work together to put it past this guy that's there with pillows. Yeah. Pillows as pads. Like, how silly is this game? It's like the most silliest game ever. It's kind of stupid, but it teaches you so many things, working together with other people, that common goal of going and getting that puck in the net. It teaches you a lot of things that you could go and relate. You go into a job, you got to work with different people, right?
Absolutely.
But you might not like them. Might not like that, but you're part of a team. And these little things, I think that if people would start recognizing the little things that happen in the sports world, that, you know, you might not play in the NHL, but you're able to take this great game and play it for many years, you know, since I retired. Like I'm every Thursday night I play, well, not right now, but every Thursday night I play men's league. Nice. With just a bunch of guys that get together, and trust me, there's no pro athletes there, but I just love just get on the ice and just having fun.
Yeah.
And that's what it is now.
That's amazing. I mean, you touched on so many things, Mike. I would love to learn how, so when you went to Michigan, right? So you said,
okay, first of all, it's Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Yeah, that's Michigan State Spartans.
Michigan State
Wolverines
Spartans.
The Wolverines are down the way. They used to party at our school. They used to come to our school. Yeah, and then they used to go back to Michigan and go study at their libraries. So
all right. So when you were at Michigan State, you knew you needed education, right? And you were playing hockey. What was it at that time that allowed you, and when you look back, to do both? Because many student athletes have a tough time. And we're just talking about student athletes right now, balancing the two. What was the thing that drove you to put in the work in school as well as on the ice?
So Ron Mason, he recently passed away. He was our head coach. He came in, I remember he came into my living room with my parents and he said, Mike, you got to think of your world right now as a triangle. With each side, you got to keep balance. You have your education, you have your personal life, and then you have your sports at the bottom. And if you start partying too much, well, it gets out of whack, right? And if you concentrate too much on a hockey, you have to keep each side equal. And I try and remind myself all the time of that, because it really does. A lot of people, like I said, they don't look around and recognize what is really going on. And it's a constant balance of that. So I ended up going to Michigan State, and in the first 2 years, you're taking all the compulsory classes and everything, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up taking this test, and it was like something like 500 questions. And it told me that I wanted to get into computers. So I was really, this is like in 96. So the internet's not like it is now. They had a telecommunication as a major, and I waived all these classes. My file was this thick. So I was taking typography classes, learning about fonts. I was taking and layouts and everything. I was taking software design class. I ended up doing a virtual reality internship.
Back in 96.
Back in 96, it was crazy because you're able to put on these the goggles, and back there they created a whole entire world that you're able to go into. And in this world, I created my beach volleyball that I was able to pick up and lift right in front of my face. Wow. And a trash can. But you're kind of able to you hold your fingers like this, and you're able to fly around this little city. And that was back in 96. So it was kind of cool. Well, that would have been 98. So that was pretty cool. But after I graduated, I was designing websites on the plane it's funny, NHL. I would go into connections I had in the city, and I'd say, do you want me to design your website? And I'm an NHL player, and I'm going and designing it for local people because I was trying to stay relevant. So while everybody was on the plane, they're losing money at the poker table. Well, nobody really loses money, right? But I was designing websites, and it was pretty cool. I was trying to stay relevant, and then I ended up going to Florida, and Rob Tallis, the goalie coach there, is just like, hey, he's just like, it's crazy. We're in the NHL, and we have all this. We're still writing drills on a piece of paper. Yeah, it's crazy. And even me with my hockey school that I developed, I'm like, I would have to, if I wanted a practice plan, I would draw it out. And then if I wanted to move this drill here, I would have to cut and paste because I didn't feel like redrawing it again. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So that's why I ended up creating CoachThem. So CoachThem.com. And I wanted it completely web-based. And that was ahead of its time too. Web-based, I know Adobe was talking about going web-based and everything in the cloud, but yeah, so it's pretty crazy. We ended up doing something that was pretty amazing. We have like 11,000 coaches on there now. And it was it was pretty cool, but it's just me staying relevant. Yeah. Staying relevant and having the guts to basically take an idea, find the right people, put it together, and create a business out of it.
I mean, you went to school, you knew you had the triangle, you had to keep it balanced, right? You went to school, you had a great career, you made a lot of money, but you knew that it's not going to last forever. You stayed relevant. You put in the work behind the scenes, and then that allowed you to get on this amazing, get this technology, this platform that you built that literally coaches right now in the NHL are using. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And just because you were curious and you stayed relevant, it's amazing.
It's simple things, but and I think it's the one thing that I had such a long career because I really thought faster than the other person, but I was always in preparation. So I was a solution-based player. So a lot of people would watch the puck, but I never watched the puck. I paid attention to where it kind of was, but if I was able to figure out, not the guy carrying the puck, if I was able to figure out the other 4 guys on the ice, what their options are, I was basically able to tell the future. And that is half the battle because everybody's so focused on this. And it's just like, if I'm able to just glance where it is and be able to figure out and be proactive with what the other guys were doing.
Love it.
Yeah. So like, it's funny. I ended up, when I was in Florida, we got off the plane, went into the hotel, and I got pulled into a room. And one of the guys is just like, hey, Mike, you're just making us look horrible right now. I'm like, why? He's just like, you're watching video. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I want to improve myself. I want to take my game to the next level. And I would always be watching video because a foot off here and there is too much. So but it was kind of funny that I never ended up following everybody else. I was always going and redefining myself, and it's just basically staying. I wasn't comfortable.
Yeah. Ever. I mean, I have 2 questions for you, Mike. The first one is, I thought that everyone in the NHL will be doing the exact same things on a daily basis to get the edge. Well, you're telling me, and this is probably true for most leagues anyways, that it's really up to the individual to put in the extra work. So if you're watching film and others weren't, that gave you the competitive edge. Now, where do most players fall? And is it like, for example, let's say Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl, right? Sitting outside, you look in the NFL, you're like, hey, amazing player. Everybody's working hard. Everybody's putting in the work. Everybody's watching film. But that's not the case. And you're saying the same thing. So how do people separate themselves in the NHL, and where does that I guess the line or the bar?
Well, I'm gonna say back then, not as many guys watched video. Now it's turning into more of a common thing.
Maybe now it's nutrition though that people are focusing more on, and not as much.
Like getting in the airplane, we would have iPads sitting right at our seats, and we'd be able to go through just our game clips. We don't even have to go through the whole game. It's only our game clips. But I would always be asking, can you give me the penalty kill? Can you get, well, I was never on the power play, but can you give me all the clips that I needed? But but it's one thing to watch video, but it's another thing to it's another thing to pick it out and understand what you're doing wrong. And that's one thing I think. It's funny. I ended up with my hockey school. I created it back 20 years ago now. And the first time I created the hockey school, it was $2,000 each, myself and somebody else put it in. And we had somebody in Toronto, a buddy of mine, going and advertise for us. And we're hoping that we're going to get 40 kids to come to the camp. Not one person signed up.
Wow.
Not one person. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, so I ended up going back to the drawing board, and I'm like, okay, what do I do well? And I thought the game well. And that's why I created Defense First. So I created Defense First because I thought the need of teaching people to recognize what's going on the ice and recognize where they are and the thinking part of the game. And now I have over 300 kids I teach in July. They come from all over the world, and I teach the thinking part of the game. And it's something that I always looked at solutions for everything. I have so many ideas per day, and they're brilliant. Yeah. For sure. But it's something that I think with me, I'm a solution-based person. I always go and look at something. Okay, how can I make that better? And I run with it too. So it's something that I'm always going and trying to redefine myself and take myself to the next level.
Solution-based, you said a lot of stuff about you reading the game, you're using your mind to get the advantage, right? Now, apply this for me, Mike, to business, for executives. And you're totally bang on. A lot of executives, a lot of teams are so focused on the task at hand that they forget to look at a macro, to look at what's really going on. What's that edge that they really need? Looking back, they're like, oh shit, it was so obvious we should have done this, just like if you watch film. But you were able to do this in business or in hockey, look at the people and then build your plan. What can some people in business learn from what you did in hockey?
Okay. I like to kind of put it as there are employees and employers. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more employees out there. And the employees are taking the direction of the employer. Now, the one goal of the employer is, well, the employees obviously work about the daily tasks, right? The employee, he's the one that has to go and think so far down the road. And with CoachThem, especially, I'm like, I want to go and make my coaching platform so crazy easy for the coaches that eliminates all the time and effort to go and create a drill. Like being able to go and create a drill digitally once, you have it there for life. And it's easy to go and to add to your practice plan. And that's the whole idea of that, is to eliminate paper. Very easy for our coaches. But the one thing is I am thinking way down the line of all these crazy features that I want to implement. Now, it's something that I go and allow, especially my head CTO, I have to say, hey, this is where we're going with it. Because the one thing is with people, they go and like, okay, we're just going to build this. But then if they're not thinking of the future of what's going on, they have to go and rebuild it again. And that's one thing that I have learned along the way is I wasn't allowing my CTO or looking at the big future piece of it and just focusing on just getting it out. But if you take the time to go and explain your vision, it makes things a lot easier.
Very smart. Very smart. So walk me through an example where even in hockey, so maybe somebody you were part of the team or your coach did this really well. Here's the vision, here's how we're going to get to the championship game, versus some coaches that just give you the plays. And I've been on that side where sometimes you're like, I would love to run this play for you, coach, because I believe in the vision, even though I'm not going to get the glory. Or some other times it's like, I don't want to run this play because I really don't know why we're doing this.
And that's exactly, right? And I think what I actually did, I always wanted to know, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
There's been tons of coaches that they'll go and do a drill, and I'm like, that is the dumbest drill ever. I'm like, what is that teaching us? Like, it's not teaching us anything. There's no goal. There's no end game for this. Like, we're literally skating down the ice and shooting on the shooting on the net. I'm like, what is the purpose of this? There wasn't. And sure, obviously you got your skating, your stride and stuff like that, but going and adding game-like situations into your drills are so huge, so huge. Instead of going around a pylon, right? Add in some contact, add in some game. Like, obviously you're never going to be able to replicate a real live game, but get as close to it as possible. I've had tons of coaches, and that's one thing with my hockey school. And like, I'm going to tell you though, a lot of people go and just go and ignore the things that they don't like in people. With every single person, I think you almost got to take lessons from them and be open. And it's funny, what's going on with the world right now is kind of scary, because they are taking away our voice and saying, how you gotta go, and if you think that this color is blue and I think it's yellow, like, my thing is just like, I respect that you think that's blue, right? I'm not going to be like, no, we got to go and say it's yellow. Respect everybody's opinion. And that's what makes you a very, very amazing, whether you're a CEO or even an employee or employer, whatever. I think being open to everything. And that's what I did with my hockey. I ended up going through, and sure, there were coaches that I'm going to say a lot of the guys on the team complained about, but I really didn't complain. I would just go and make sure that, hey, he is teaching this. I don't necessarily like it, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to shut my mouth up. And later on, I'm going to discard that out of my toolbox, because I really don't think that's the way to do it. But I took a lot of lessons that I like from other coaches. And I think as a CEO or as just everybody, I think don't discard people's views, because it might change you if you are open to exploring different things. I think it will open up a lot of doors.
Yeah, especially those who are actually working with the customers in a business, right? So a lot of the managers or even the analysts, a lot of times they feel, and this is a culture thing, right? A lot of times they feel that they are not welcome to share their opinions, or they're worried about judgment. And executives may think, well, nobody has anything good to say because they don't share anything. So we know that what decisions we have to make. I think it's also up to the culture and executives to make it feel that it's safe to bring ideas, to bring opinions, and actually have an open door policy versus just saying we have an open door policy.
Yeah, well, it's funny that would have been probably about a year ago. I saw this picture on, I don't know if it was Twitter or whatever, but the top part of it, it's a cartoon. The top part of it is a guy sitting up at his desk.
Yeah.
And below there was people that were pulling on this rope. And he was down there, he's like this, and he's like pointing down, and he's basically telling them to pull it.
Yeah.
Underneath that picture, there's another one of him down there pulling on the same rope. And that's one thing I find, that you get into different levels of a manager and they look down at people. The CEO looks down at people. And that's one thing I don't really like. Like even me walking out here, nobody talks to the people cleaning the buildings. the janitors.
So true.
I don't see anybody talking to them. I'm friends with all of them. I say hi to them every day, and I get pissed off when people go and put garbage in the recycling chute. Like, go and take it downstairs. Like, go and, like, that's one of the things. Like, why would you ever look down? Because everybody's job is important. And that's the whole what's going on, and a necessary job, right? Necessity. I'm like, I think every single job is necessary.
Absolutely.
Like, I think what's going on right now, I think, to be honest, it's a bigger play on this whole entire thing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm going to say, if you're not questioning with what's going on, then you're just going and following the herd.
Blindly.
And the herd always gets led to the slaughterhouse. And that's one of the things that you, in every single day, you should always question somebody's, not going and being mean about it. Just be like, oh, so why are you thinking this way? Like, why? Like, why not ask that? Why are you thinking this way? Instead of saying, oh, it's this. Oh, I respect your opinion.
Challenge respectfully. Exactly.
I respect your opinion. And it's something that, hey, I might learn from that. And if I'm open, and so, and one of the things I've been trying to work on lately is, because when you get onto some of these meetings that I have, it's funny. I use Uber Conference, and at the end, it tells you how many minutes that you were actually speaking for. So I've been trying to get my minutes down so much, because basically the person that speaks less is the more powerful stance. And I've been really working with that, but it's kind of funny.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, I have one more question for you. Let's talk about failure. So I think it comes from this entire thing about the culture, the business, right? Like the strategy that you were discussing before. Everybody fails. But I believe that the definition of failure today has to be changed. It's because, and you saw yourself in your career. I'm going to give you the floor in a minute. But many times in business, when somebody fails, people are afraid of judgment, because they think that, oh shit, this project didn't work, this product didn't work properly, this launch didn't get the right amount of people to show up, therefore it was a failure. But I think the people that do it well look at that as almost a step towards the right direction, and you learn and you iterate, and it becomes part of the execution. Because if you didn't fail, you wouldn't learn. So we'd love to have your views on this, and maybe how failure actually helped shape your career.
Well, I need to let you know that I've never failed in my life. I'm just joking. No, I'm going to tell you, it's so many people look at NHL players and they're just like, oh my God, that guy never made mistakes. Like, all through minor hockey, you know how many mistakes I made? Oh, crazy amount. And it's so funny. Like, even my kids now, it's crazy. They are so nervous about speaking out in class and saying an answer. They're the people that don't even put their arm up to go and ask a question. They're very afraid of mistakes. And I'm going to say that if you're not making mistakes, you're actually not trying, because you have to make mistakes in order to refine your product. And to be honest, you should be open to criticism. I ended up with CoachThem. I ended up putting something out there, and I had a lot of feedback, and it was tough. It's tough because that's your baby, because you're around it. You've built it with blood, sweat, and tears. And I put it out there, and it didn't go well. But I redefined it, and I ended up making it better, just like my hockey school example.
I love the thing you said before, where you said back to the drawing board, right? That's the thing that people need to understand, that something fails, you go back to the drawing board, what didn't work, and very factual and data-based, get the emotions out of it, and go back at it again, right? Figure out what didn't work and fix it.
Well, with defense first, my example, I lost $2,000 and my buddy lost $2,000. So $4,000 US dollars we lost, but now it's very, very successful hockey school. So if everybody came to that hockey school, sure, it probably would have been pretty good. But I'm going to tell you though, I went back to the drawing board, and I think I have something that nobody else does. It's a thinking camp.
It's amazing.
So it allowed me to.
And if you had quit at that moment, that this is never going to work, you wouldn't be here right now.
I agree. Right? I agree. It's pretty cool. And think about this. That hockey school led me to CoachThem. So that hockey school, absolutely. I found it very tough to go and create my drills and my plans. So it led me to going and redefining coaching. So
awesome.
and now we're jumping to the other sports. So we have lacrosse now, and we're hoping to jump somewhere else in the near future. So we got some really good stuff coming down the.
I got some ideas for you for football if you ever want to chat.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm totally open. We love our coaches. We have a great time. We've created a lot of amazing chat rooms, and we love sharing our drills, and we love feedback. We love feature requests. We love all that, and we're looking for new developers every day, and we're looking for a UI UX developer. So if there's any of them out there, call
guys. me. You guys heard him. You guys heard Mike. So he's hiring right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Mike. So first of all, last question. Two questions. One. Where can everybody learn more about CoachThem, and where can they apply for these jobs? How can they find more about it?
Well, you could go and apply at support@coachthem.com. We'll just send everybody an email there. Just say that you're applying for the job, and then send your resume along with that. We love that. You could go to CoachThem.com. And check us out. We're redoing our whole front end public pages right now. So it should be updated soon.
And last question before we go, Mike. Last piece of advice for student athletes, or even athletes making the transition from sports to business.
The sports world uses you. So why don't you use the sports world?
Nice.
One thing, when I ended up going to Montreal Canadians, when I was traded, I had 2,000 followers on Twitter, and within minutes I had 20,000. Now I'm up to, I was at 40,000 followers on Twitter. If I was just a normal person, I wouldn't have got all those followers. And it's pretty powerful to be able to send a tweet out to 40,000 people. If I have a Instagram account also now, but if I was able to do it again, I would have for sure of really trying to grow in it a lot more. And even if I was able to hire somebody to put some amazing posts and take kind of what I was doing with charities and stuff like that, it would have been great to have somebody on there. So even just paying a little bit of money of somebody to manage your account, that would be great. I'm going to say that networking is huge. I was able to get into closed doors that nobody was able to get into.
Well, you're on the boards of all these hockey clubs on the board, which is amazing. Yeah,
for sure. Exactly. The executive board was huge. I'm going to be applying to get on the executive board for the NHL Alumni Association. So I'm going to do that. But getting involved, get your head in a business mind and think about what you want to do. Go and even take one of those tests to figure out what you're interested in. Because to be honest, if I was to do it again and I played in a couple of different cities, I would have bought a house in each city that I was playing. Like my ex-wife now, it would have been a job that she would have been able to have. So she would have been able to go and manage the houses. So that would have been revenue coming in for if I got traded to somewhere else, I would have gone and rented that house out instead of selling it. And it's something that after I was done, I would have had maybe 5 houses, and that would have been creating its own revenue.
Income, exactly.
Yeah. So these are different things that, hindsight, like obviously I wish I would have had that back then.
Awesome.
But the one thing with being an athlete is you're always so focused, and your girlfriend or wife has to go and take the burden on with the kids and with the housework and everything, and to allow you to focus on everything. And one of the biggest things I think is everybody you try and make as much money as you can, and make sure you get a prenup. That would be probably the biggest advice. If you were to take this one advice, that even though I gave a lot, if you were to take this one big thing, that is basically half your net worth that is gone during that time.
Especially for somebody going pro right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. And then any business venture that you're going in, don't feel shy about asking your girlfriend or wife at the time, because if she says no, well, you should be really thinking, why is she saying no? So that would be something that would be
awesome.
A lot of athletes, it's a huge percentage of failed marriages, especially getting after the game. And then when you get back into real life, it's funny, and it's such an emotional drain. Trust me, if anybody's having these issues as a pro athlete, call me up, or get in touch with you to get in touch with me, because it's a lot. I've helped a lot of people, a few people out right now of that, because they've been going through it, because when you're in the NHL, you're talking to, you're calling this phone number, and then literally you retire, you call this phone number. And it's a big change. It's a big change for yourself, your wife, your girlfriend. And now you're at home every single day. It's almost like you're retiring for real life, right? When you're 60 years old, you're retiring from your job. And that's what it is. And it's a lot of people it's tough to be around each other because you're not used to it.
Awesome. Yeah. I think unfortunately not a lot of people, or not a lot of content has been shared on this topic. So I think this is great advice, Mike.
For sure.
And I think there's not a need for this, especially nowadays, especially with COVID. So this is awesome. And hey, anybody listening right now, pro athlete, student athlete, having a tough time transitioning, feel free to reach out to Mike.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Mike, awesome. Thanks so much for jumping on again. It was amazing, especially, again, great chatting with someone from the same hometown as you. So, B-Town. So, hey, thanks so much again. Appreciate it. Team, remember to like, subscribe, and share with a friend, and visit tanvirvango.com for a ton of free content and exercises.